keep clicking on start video and nothing happened.
Well, I can see you though.
Oh, there you go.
I've got two of you, and one is I see you just fine. So are you're on the phone and on the computer or something?
No, I'm just on the computer, but it keeps popping back, looking at me. And the start video thing is got a cross on it.
If you have it as speaker view, it's going to show you when you're talking.
Screen share participants chat. It says there's 3 participants.
Yeah, I've got two of them are you.
Now what do I do?
I can see you. You can hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you now. It
Okay.
keeps flipping back and forth between you and me.
Right, that should be when we talk.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm looking up here at participants, and one is me, and then me is down below. Should I cancel one of those?
I think I'm going to remove one of you.
Okay, you remove me.
Okay, so now there should just be one of you and one of me. And there's a little box, it says gallery view or speaker view. And if you click that, it should switch your view. Like gallery view should show both of us at the same time. And if you click where it says speaker view, then it just shows who's speaking. Oh, you just went away. I think you hung up.
Yes.
No.
So I saw a little munchkin back there. I saw someone looking in the mirror.
Hey, Peter, come say hi.
He's trying to figure out how good looking he is. Yeah, hi, Guy.
Hi.
What'd you have for lunch, Peter?
A hamburger and corn on the cob.
Wow, sounds like a pretty good lunch.
What do you like on your corn on the cob?
Salt,
Butter and pepper.
butter.
We like to do a Mexican style too with mayonnaise and pico de gallo and parmesan.
Grandma Mary Ann had hamburger, but I had fried flounder.
Mm.
And by the time it gets to the house, it's kind of, who cares? You don't know what it is.
It's not warm anymore.
Pardon?
Not warm anymore.
Well, it is, but it isn't. And I don't know how they can make mac and cheese so unappetizing around here.
That's too bad.
I love mac and cheese. But what they make here is crap.
Well, I mean, you have a kitchen, right? Do you have like all the regular stuff of a kitchen?
Yeah, we have the stoves and refrigerators and dishwashers, and we have all those kind of things, but see, they deliver the meals.
Yeah. Well, and if you get really hungry for mac and cheese, you can just make some, right?
Oh, yes, I could. But I'm having issues with what I eat anyway. They had told me I was supposed to force feed myself protein.
Mm-hmm.
We got a bunch of energy bars, and I got yogurt, and I was doing great. And then Sunday, I got gout in my right toe, the same foot that I have the sore on.
Mm.
So it just doubled up. The good outcome of all this was after not telling me one way or the other, from Friday to Monday, my infectious disease doctor refilled all my antibiotic prescriptions.
Oh, yeah?
So it's a slow process, but we are making some headway.
Well, antibiotics by themselves can upset your digestive tract too, so.
Yeah, and I don't have much of an appetite. I kind of just, food is food, and that's about it.
Yep.
So the Peter is bouncing around there, Sam home from school?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
There was one of the teachers in Sam's room had tested positive for coronavirus. So they shut down that room. And then another teacher in the center tested positive, but not because they had any interaction. And so they shut down the whole center for 2 weeks. One of the weeks we were on vacation, and then this week he's just been home. And it was open today. And we figured we'd just start on Monday because that's when Peter goes back to school.
Yeah,
Peter's school starts up anyway.
okay.
And after us and 2 other families opted to create our own little kind of like homeschool thing, but
Right.
we enrolled and stuff. We got the schedule finally this past week, like this week. The schedule for Pasadena Unified came out, and for the second grade, it's like 30 minutes on Zoom, or I think it is not Zoom, but whatever, 30 minutes like online with the teacher, and then like a 20-minute break, and then 45 minutes online with the class, and then a 10-minute break, and then 30-minute, like it's just all these,
Weird breakups.
yeah. And I guess the idea is that it's too hard for the kids to focus, but I just can't imagine how that's going to work. I mean, like even for it's not going to work for us because we have an actual second grade teacher who is going to be like teaching our 3 boys stuff.
I can't imagine anybody watching a screen for 30 minutes and taking a 10-minute break and then go back to the screen.
The second
Good Lord.
graders, yeah.
Yeah,
hmm And like somebody else said too, she's like, or posted on a Facebook group, like, for parents that are working, if they're working from home,
good.
the kids are not going to stay on the internet. Like they're not going to just sit here and, oh, it's 30 minutes of work time now. You should do the work that we just talked about. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
I mean, some kids will do that, but a lot of them won't.
right. It's
No.
time to hit the refrigerator.
Uh-huh. Or just whatever, just play, do
I have
whatever.
to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I need a drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
Papa Peter making dinner.
I'm not
Papa
sure.
Peter is cooking.
I'm cooking, yeah.
Oh,
Mm. Figs are yummy.
yeah.
We put goat cheese on the inside and then put prosciutto on the top and cook them.
Uh-huh. That really sets them off, huh?
My favorite thing to eat.
Oh, good.
Yeah, all those fancy foods.
It's the best ever, ever. Mhm. Okay, so I found this website that was like 60 questions to ask your parents.
Oh, goodness.
Uh-huh.
We only have an hour.
Some of the stuff we already talked about, but some of them were good questions, like, how did your parents meet? You know how your parents met?
Yeah. Renee moved into the apartment complex where we live.
Right. I mean, your parents.
Oh, my parents.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue.
Really? Grandma Hazel didn't talk about that?
No.
What,
I
were
mean,
they
they're
both
both in-
from the same town?
They both were in Boyd.
Oh,
I mean,
they probably
the-
knew each other then.
Frank Stevens had the farm,
Mhm.
and Dad was helping him, I guess, on the farm. And trying to think of his first name, Grandpa Anderson had a farm, but they would go to, and not Marianne, Mom would be was going to school, high school. So I suppose on weekends they met in Boyd for Saturday night or Wednesday night shopping. That's, I don't know.
Yeah. So Grandpa Anderson, when did they die? When did Grandma Hazel's parents die? Because I don't think I ever met them.
No, you didn't. Well, we have a picture of you and Grandma Anderson, but Grandpa Anderson,
Old in a nursing home, right? I mean, like in a hospital bed.
yeah, right,
I'm a tiny baby.
yeah.
Okay.
Grandpa Anderson passed away when I was about 3.
Oh,
All I remember is they took me over to the neighbors for the afternoon because they didn't think I could handle the funeral, and that's probably okay.
mhm.
And I'm guessing I was about 3.
Do you remember Grandpa Anderson's name? Grandma Anderson's name?
Marie,
Oh, Grandma Marie. Okay.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. That's cool. Um. So they probably just met in Boyd because that's what people do in Boyd is they meet each other and then they get married, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, keep in mind at the time period that they were around, Model Ts were just coming into uh, vogue or just available. Transportation was just becoming an item. So
Uh-huh.
you didn't go to Minneapolis or New York or Los Angeles
Yeah.
to meet people.
Did people ride horses? Because not a lot of people could afford a Model
Yeah,
T.
they had
back
buggies, and now when I was around, I never saw anyone with a horse and buggy, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure they did back then.
then. Everybody had cars by then?
I guess so.
It seems, I mean, nowadays people have cars, but they seem like they cost so much more relative to income. I don't know how finances worked back then, but a lot of
Well,
people had cars.
until Ford made the Model T, you had to be a very affluent family to have a vehicle because the pricing was elevated. And Ford made it reasonable for most families of average means to own a car.
Mhm. What about television? Do you remember when you first got television?
Yeah, Dad had already passed away, and I was a junior or senior in high school, and Mom bought a TV. And we had to have a device on top of the TV that you could turn the antenna toward the station you wanted to watch.
Did you have a favorite show?
I don't have a clue.
So before that, did you like listen to the radio? I mean, I know I've seen pictures of like families would all sit around and listen to these radio programs. Like, did you guys do that?
Well, keep in mind, Dad had already passed away.
Mhm.
I listened to I don't know, maybe freshman or sophomore year, I got into listening to the radio because it's a thing that everyone else was doing.
Mhm.
Listening to all the pop, jailhouse rock and that kind of stuff, songs.
Mhm.
But there was basketball practice, there was football practice, there was baseball practice. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So you didn't just sit around and do nothing.
Mhm. Did you have homework too? Did you have a lot of homework?
Very, very seldom did I bring home schoolwork. I was able to do most of it in school because we had, 2 hours scattered through the day.
Something?
Homeroom.
Oh, okay.
I could get most of it done then.
Let's see. I'm looking at some of these questions. Oh, did you ever have like a favorite? Did you have a favorite thing to eat? I mean, it's like, what kind of food did you like growing up? Like, what kind of food? I don't even know. I mean, that might be relevant today, like Thai food. But probably wasn't then. What was your favorite meal? It says.
I suppose it was steak. Mother would bring home round steak from the grocery store just because it was convenient. Back then it was relatively priced, or hamburger of some kind. I don't remember a particular dish or anything that was a favorite per se. Food was food.
Yeah. Didn't she make Cracker Jack though?
Well, she did, not very often, but she did for grandchildren.
Okay. I thought, I kind of remember anyway that it was like more of an exciting thing for Uncle Roger and you. And she'd be like, I made Cracker Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember those cinnamon rolls that we would just, my memory is so weird because I was so little, but like that we would eat like an unbelievable number of cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, you devour the whole pan.
Mhm. Yeah. And then when I saw the recipe, I think Marianne sent it to me in an envelope that it was like made with some like, I have this idea of Grandma Hazel as just being someone who just spent all of her time doing everything from scratch. And the cinnamon rolls, like the base of them was like these store-bought rolls. that
Yeah,
just-
you go buy
yeah.
dough at the store.
Yeah.
You just wind it up and put butter and cinnamon and sugar
Couple-
on it, and then put caramel and walnuts over the top.
Yeah, those were good. They were good. I remember too the Sally Ann cookies. Those like coffee or like molasses. I guess it was molasses.
Yeah, molasses and then white frosting.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I mean, she also made like tradition. I don't know if those are traditional or anything, but sweet like krumkaka and the rosettes.
well, she really wasn't into making that kind of stuff. Maybelle, Auntie Maybelle made that kind of stuff, and others, Lily made some of that kind of stuff. But there was enough people in town that would make and deliver. Once in a while, Mother would make something for Christmas, and I don't remember all the names of the stuff. Sand buckles, I guess, was one. It's like a holder for a cupcake. And I don't. But yeah, at Christmas time, she'd make some of that stuff.
Let's see. What were your role models and why? I don't know if there's anything there. Who did you look up to? Who did you want to be like when you were little?
I don't know.
Your dad?
I suppose, yeah. That was probably the best role model I had.
Yeah. Well, and he was just like, he was a good, hardworking guy, right?
Yeah.
Did he play with you? Do you remember like him being silly or anything, or throwing you around and wrestling?
No. There was none of that kind of play whatsoever. Roger and I used to wrestle when we could do it non-violently, but that was after Dad had passed away. But I don't remember a whole lot of affection per se, hugging or saying you're a good kid or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I hate to say that there wasn't any love in the house, but I don't remember much of it.
Well, and I think, there was just so much hard work, and I don't know. It was just a different time too, where maybe people weren't they weren't as affectionate in general, perhaps.
Well, one of the things that I got into making model airplanes,
Mm-hmm.
and in the wintertime, I had a card table set up, and I'd work on that card table, and of course it creates dust, and I'd usually make multiple airplanes or little models of stuff. So back to the idea, if you didn't have TV, that's what you were doing.
Yeah, like balsa wood.
Yeah, some balsa wood, and I made some ship models, all of them from kits.
Mhm.
And I'd store them on the dresser in Mom and Dad's bedroom, and Mother kept asking me, what do you want me to do with them? I don't care, throw them away. You can't do that. Well, you can too, because I don't have a need for them.
Uh-huh. Oh, you mean after you got to be an adult, she asked you? Or
Yeah, she wanted me to take them, and
Oh.
I didn't want them.
Uh-huh. They're probably in Margaret's garage.
Yeah, she wouldn't pass up anything that's free.
Let's see what else. Okay. Oh, here's another one. This is number 10. So this is the end of the topic. Here is about their childhood. Well, did you have a favorite memory? Like just anything, like whether it's just, a nice day running around in the woods or like, a sweet time? Anything that sticks out as like a good memory?
Not anything that stands out in particular.
Getting that BB gun maybe?
Well, that was when we were living on the farm
Well,
much earlier. I don't know that I brought the BB gun to town. I don't know what happened to it.
mhm. Oh yeah, I want to clarify a memory that I have too, because I have the idea that we were staying in like a hotel, maybe in North Carolina or something, and we came out on the balcony, and then there were our two bikes. Jeff and I had gotten new bikes, and they had like big flags on the back, and they were in the parking lot. Is that
Yeah, North Carolina.
okay?
We just returned from Okinawa,
Uh-huh.
and I bought new bikes and we didn't have to have, but I bought those flags
Yeah,
because they were not full-size bikes.
right.
And I don't remember what hotel or where we were staying. I
I mean,
don't
it was
remember being in a
military
hotel.
housing, but like a second floor about or whatever, looking out, and there's the bikes. It was like this super exciting thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I remember it. It
Well, I was trying to impress you kids.
was great. I was impressed. See, I still remember it 50 years later. I mean, however many years later. And then the next category is relationships or love lives. Are you ready?
Yeah, already.
Did you have a first crush? Who was it?
Oh, there was a girl by the name of Thompson, I guess, which was my first kiss.
Uh-huh.
And the second time we were together, all she could do was talk, and she had all these demands, and I dropped her off at the front of the house and wouldn't even walk her to the door.
No.
Well, exactly what she deserved. So anyway, other than that, wasn't anything
Uh-huh.
special.
Uh-oh. I don't know if you just heard all the commotion behind, and now Sam is crying. This happens like 5 or 6 or 18 times a day.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Tompkins.
This is a hard one. Is there anything you wish you had done differently in your love life?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions about your wedding day. How would you describe your spouse and whatever?
I guess one of the things as I look back, I probably should have had more emotion involved. It was pretty much cut and dried. This is all business.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There we go. And then just to like kind of tag team on that one is, what is your most romantic memory? Is the last question in that category. And it might be like, oh yeah, I mean, it sounds like maybe if emotion was lacking, it might not be so romantic, but.
Well, most romantic probably was when Marianne agreed to marry me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I don't know how you proposed or anything.
Well, I had gone home and leave, and I stopped in Mankato, and we went out for dinner, and then she came up to Sauk Center, I guess it was, and Mom and John and us went out to nightclubs, and then she came down to Fort Bragg to kind of see what Army life was like.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asked me what my intentions were, and I told her honorable. So I said,
You told her what?
they are honorable,
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
and I would be honored to have her as my wife.
Yeah.
So that was the proposal. There was no on the knee on the ground or no roses.
Did you have a ring?
No, we went and found one.
Okay. That's good. I like that. I mean, it's still like when I think about now, like having children, I'm gonna cry a little bit here, but and I think about like, you know, Marianne having to deal with Jeff and I when we were doing this all day long and you were at work.
Yep.
That's I hope you made it up to her all the rest of the year.
It was quite a change of
The work that
life
she
for her. Yeah.
did. Yeah.
And you did manage to make it difficult for her.
Yeah. I mean, for kids, that's what we do, right?
I don't know.
Oh.
To my opinion, there was a lot of resentment.
Oh, yeah? I mean,
Yes.
possibly, yeah. We're kids, that's what happens. Anyway. Why did you choose the college you went to? I think I understand. It was just sort of, that was just where you went. There wasn't a whole lot
Where I
of,
went, the only place I applied, the only place that probably would have let me in, the only school that really had a curriculum I was interested in.
right. And then this other one says, how did you choose your area of study? But you already knew what you wanted to study, right? Like, but what made you say, like, no, it's going to be engineering. That's what I want to do.
Didn't know what else to do. I wasn't a teacher, wasn't an
Right.
English teacher.
I mean, how did you even know that engineering was an option?
Well, it started, I guess, when Dad started selling culverts. And I liked the idea of building interstate highways. And that's what civil engineers do. You work with dirt. And that's just to follow on. And math was my strongest suit of study. So it was just, what are you going to do? Well, I guess I'm going to be an engineer.
Yeah. Okay. What's the least favorite job you've ever had?
Oh, well, it's a subset of least favorite jobs. When I was 10 years old and was sent out to work on Marlo Scollin's farm, and he sent me out into the thistle fields, cut the tops off thistles in the middle of the summer. Yeah,
That really hurts.
yeah,
I mean, like if you have a leather apron or something on, which is hot.
yeah. I just had Levi's and a shirt.
Yeah.
Not my favorite job.
No. And boring too. Super boring.
Well, it was hot. You're out there in the middle of all those weeds, there's nothing moving.
And all kinds of bugs too, biting you.
Could be.
What 3 words would you choose to describe your career?
I was there.
Okay. That's great.
I guess the best thing, I had a lot of successful friends, and because they were doing things, I did them also.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably was as much of my success as anything else.
Like who were like Ted Trainer? I mean, I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that was one of them. But, well, as an example, when I went to college, I knew I was going to go to ROTC because that'd give me a commission. I had been in the National Guard. And so I figured if I could be an engineer and a commissioned officer, that'd be a living. Well, in the meantime, because of my background, I was designated a distinguished military student, which put me as a regular Army officer when I graduated from college. And then I was sent off to basic course, and I was in, my basic course was made up half of the West Point class. Well, these guys were all excellers. And so if you're going to stay in the back, you had to make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a regular Army officer, wound up having to go to either airborne or ranger school. And the flying sergeant said, well, they're about the same. So I said, I'll take both of them. Well, I found out after I was done with them that they're not exactly the same. But it's one of those things, after you've done it, you don't want to go back when you're glad you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other people, you were successful, and some of the others were not.
Successful in having completed the training?
Pardon?
Successful as in having completed the training?
Yeah. You survived for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Walking in the mountains of Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
being wet in the swamps in Florida, being thirsty, going 3 nights without measurable amounts of sleep,
Mm-hmm.
just stuff like that.
Was that was Ranger School? Or,
Yes.
So you did that first and then airborne, or you did?
No, I went to airborne school first.
Okay.
The kids who went to airborne school like I did, we were in pretty decent shape to go to ranger school. People who went to ranger school came out depleted, physically depleted.
Yeah.
And airborne school was tough for them. Not that they weren't in shape, it's just their body was beat.
Yeah. Did you get to have any time to recuperate after ranger school, or there was just none of that?
No, from ranger school, I drove down to Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, to spend Easter with Jeff Stevens. And then I drove up to Minnesota en route to Washington to anyway, the installation, can't think of the name of the installation, doesn't come to my head right now. But anyway, so that I reported in out in Washington State.
Oh, the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C.
Yeah, state of Washington.
So I'm confused because Jeff and Pearl, that's
Yeah,
who visited? Because I
Right.
thought he died in the war.
no, that was Florin.
Okay. Okay. But Jeff died early too, right?
I guess he must have passed away sometime in the 70s.
Oh. And that's who Jeff is named after, my brother Jeff, right?
Right.
So how you knew him just because, like, were they in Minnesota when you were growing up?
Well, they came to Minnesota on vacation. And I just liked him when I met him. He was a happy-go-lucky individual. He had lots of stories.
Did they have any kids, Jeff and
No,
Pearl?
no.
Okay. So this is another one of these questions then. When you look back at your career, do you have any regrets? Would you have done anything differently?
Well, it's easy to look back and say I should have done something differently.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I made it through 20 years. Yeah, I guess there's areas that I wish I had done things differently. Maybe I could have been promoted to full colonel, but on the other hand, it's probably I was as successful as my personality and my capabilities allowed me to be.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think, like, what was it about Ted Trainer? Like, why was he successful? Is he just more ambitious or more lucky, or like what? I don't even know what that means in terms of Army stuff as success.
Well, I don't know if he was any more successful than I am. I was. We both retired as lieutenant colonels. We both had very similar assignments, except he did go off to foreign area officer assignments in Indonesia. Ted was older than I was, and he was also a pretty smart individual, but he was rough around the edges. So we kind of complemented each other.
A similar question, but when you look back at your career, what are you most proud of?
I guess the most having back to the idea of being in the Army and having to compete to stay with your classmates, like for promotion. The fact that I was able to go to graduate school, I was able to take my professional engineer license test and pass it. Those are probably the two significant, and then get promoted to lieutenant colonel. Those are significant highlights of my career.
Okay. What are some hobbies or work you did that outside of your career that you've loved or are proud of?
Well, I think you are familiar with those, the woodworking. I started building when I was about 8 years old. I would go out and find pop bottles, turn them into the grocery store for 3 cents or a penny a piece or whatever. And I'd buy a apple crate for 5 cents. And I'd go home and,
a wooden crate?
yeah. And go home and build a birdhouse. And so I was into building stuff very early in my life. And then when I went on active duty, they have hobby shops, and so I was doing woodworking there. And you've seen the results of some of my woodworking.
Yeah. I mean, I can say certain things that I think is true about you, but maybe it would have been like that I had trained the dog, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway. And you are quite a dog whisperer too. How is it not having a dog
Not having any dogs.
right now? Yeah. You're
Oh,
dog.
well, the truth of the matter is, we probably would have a very difficult time managing with a dog, particularly elderly dog that have special needs, because I'm not capable of supporting my end of taking him out for walks
Mhm.
and doing his duty and all that kind of stuff. Keep in mind, last week we had 5 doctor appointments, so the dog would be at home.
Yeah.
And this week I only had 2, but next week we kind of start over again. And I don't know if we told you, but next Thursday, I go in the hospital to have this wound
Clean it
cleaned
out,
up.
right?
Yeah. It's an overnight event. So that would be very complicated to have a elderly pet.
Yeah. And a young pet is also not.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't trust them.
Let's see. Oh yeah. Next are questions about life lessons and values. Well, this isn't on there. I think Peter is burning himself. Oops. That might be the bread coming out of the oven.
Oh,
Or no, it's the lid coming off of the bread that's in the oven.
okay.
Oh yeah, what about church? Like, have you always, your whole life, been somebody who goes to church? I mean, because the whole time that I've been alive, you've always had church. Was that?
Well, we went to Sunday school when I was growing up. And when I went to college, most Sundays I went to church. And when I went on active duty, frequently would go to church. And so, yeah, it was just kind of Sunday was the day you go to church.
So, you know that Jeff has a very different relationship with church, and I have a different relationship with church than you do. Like, what is your relationship with church? Is it like just one of those things that you do? It's just part of being a good person, and it's a way to contribute, or is it like where you feel closer to God, or like why do you church?
Well, people have kind of thrown that question out, and I say, I go because I need it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel better after you go?
Well, that's what you go to church for, is forgiveness of sins.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I have also felt I contributed. I served on the church council, was a budget manager, was a president of the congregation. So I felt I've contributed in those areas. Professionally, I've served in every local office for civil engineering, served in every office and on boards at what we call the section or the state level, and was the president of Alabama section 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Were those all volunteer things?
Well, you kind of had to get into the queue.
Mm-hmm.
You had to volunteer first, and then after that, it was just kind of a stepping stone.
It's sort of like board of directors kind of stuff, or something kind of similar to that.
Well, there's a board of directors, and I served on that for probably 5 years or more. But then you start out as secretary, treasurer, vice president, and then president. But you start out as secretary, treasurer, and then there's a gap because until your term, each location has opportunity to appoint their nominee for president. So there's a break between when you're secretary treasurer and when your name comes up for a vice president.
What does that organization do?
We have annual meetings twice a year. You get briefed on some of the latest materials, construction methods. A lot of camaraderie. Businesses advertise, bring their products to the meetings.
Just a professional
Yeah.
conference.
As an example, when the Corvette Museum broke apart in Kentucky, and all these Corvettes fell in a big hole.
What'd you-
The fellow who was the project manager to clean that mess up spoke at one of our meetings. I
I
heard
didn't
him.
know that happened.
Yeah,
Why did it happen? Bad engineering?
no, the
Earthquake? fault?
whole Kentucky is, in Tennessee, is full of what do we call karst, limestone deposits, and moisture migrates through these. Well, you've heard of various caverns in Tennessee and Kentucky. Well, those
Look up
caverns,
And
those
then,
caverns are created by water washing away reacting with the limestone.
Mhm.
And there's a big cavern underneath this museum, and it just got big enough, and the floor and the concrete that was supporting the building couldn't hold it anymore. So
is that an engineering problem or a geology problem, or like, is that something that can be prevented?
well, it could have been prevented, I suppose, if they would have done annual geotech examinations, but that's not normal. You don't run around every year and check the ground underneath the building, as an example.
Although now maybe they will if they rebuild, right?
Well, they've devised some structural support that stabilizes existing building.
How do they get the cars out of the hole?
Well, they had to use cranes. And I think they left a couple of them down there just in the hole in the floor is still there, just as an exhibit. They probably covered it over with glass or plexiglass.
Okay, here's a good one. This will be easy. Just kidding. What's the most important thing your parents ever taught you?
I have to draw a blank on that.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, it seems like maybe just this idea about working hard. You know, maybe your dad certainly had that ethic. Being independent.
I don't know if you could say they taught me, but it was when we were growing up, there were people who worked in the summertime and who lived on unemployment in the wintertime. And that wasn't the way we did business in our family. So you tended to criticize those people, and I guess that might have been one of the lessons.
To be critical. Just kidding. Be hard work.
Yeah, to make a living for yourself.
Yeah.
Make your own way. Don't depend on somebody else.
Next one is, what was your greatest adventure? Any times where you thought you were going to die?
No, I don't know that I ever felt like I was going to. Okay. I can't say I felt like I was ever going to die, but when you go to places like Vietnam, you're flying down there, you have no idea what you're going to be stepping into. That's obviously kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And and these things are not familiar with you, but the French were in Vietnam before the Americans were there. And there was a book called Street Without Joy that was written about how the Vietnamese used to attack the French army, French soldiers traveling on this road. And when we went up country, we were drilling water wells out in the rural area and driving on that same road, Street Without Joy. So there's a little apprehension there. We also used to drive through a rubber tree plantation, Well, one of the times, not us, but one of the captains that was living at the compound where we were at, they ran a bunch of sheep or goats or cattle across the road, blocked him, and they killed him, ambushed him. It was a set-up ambush. And we used to drive that every day.
Jeez.
So,
Like,
yeah,
was there a
there's
reason why they did that? Like, or it was just a retaliation, or it was just a intimidation tactic, or?
probably intimidation.
Uh-huh.
Driving in Saigon, you would go to a stop light or stop sign or whatever traffic control, and all these bicycles would come up around you if you were in a four-wheel vehicle. And then as you were allowed to go, you would move ahead and pass all these bicycles. Well, the trick was they would come up and throw bombs in the back of your vehicle. So there was all apprehension.
Mhm.
You know, you're alert to situations that may develop like that.
So you think that was maybe the greatest risk, maybe greatest risk? I don't know, like adventure could be also, I mean, I guess adventure is sort of a risk-prone thing.
Well, and all those jumping out of airplanes is always a risk.
Yeah, I remember watching you jump out of airplanes. I remember somebody getting hurt, maybe like breaking a leg or something.
Well, I think when you kids were out there, one of the fellows came in what they call a streamer. The chute never opened. And he hit the ground with a high velocity and messed up his back and his legs.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think I remember that. I mean, I don't know what, like, but I remember that there's something went wrong and
Yep.
scary. Yeah. The next one is, what is the funniest thing that ever happened to you? I mean, these are like, it's so hard to pluck something out, but maybe, anything that was like unexpected or funny.
No, I couldn't put a label on anything that I remember.
Yeah. I can't think of it, even in my own life, if I had to come up with like the funniest thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, I don't know. What are the most important things in life? What do you think?
Well, I think believing in yourself,
Mhm.
working for what you get, not relying on others for your success. And I use the word being conservative, just paying your own way and having money in your pocket and saving for the future. Well, let me put it this way. We had just moved out of the restaurant, and there was a presidential election, so I had to be about 8 years old. And I remember back then saying, there's a difference between the two political parties. Why should you send $1 to Washington and get 10 cents back and think you're getting a gift? It didn't make sense to me. It never has.
8-year-old, yeah. Somebody told you that. Like, was that something your
No,
dad?
that's something I came up with in my own mind. You
But
pay
where
taxes.
did you hear it though, or like from what?
Pardon?
Like, but that had to come from somewhere. I mean, from the
Oh.
radio, or like you were reading the newspaper, or you were hearing adults talk about the election.
No, I don't know of any of that. All I know is it dawned on me that why should you send money to Washington, D.C. and you're always hearing about the grants and other programs where they're giving money to schools. Doesn't make much sense to give them $1 and they get a dime back.
What election was that?
It was Eisenhower and I can't remember who it was.
Eisenhower won, right? He was President Eisenhower.
Yeah.
I don't know who the losing people were. I barely know who the winning people were.
Yeah. So anyway, I keep in mind at that age, I've had that philosophy pretty much,
Yeah.
elements of that philosophy my whole life.
Well, and I imagine too that that was what your parents also felt, and that's what you heard around too, or
Yeah, there was, matter of fact, mother used to get in pretty heated discussions with her sisters because they were all FDR Roosevelt people. And mother kept saying that this idea of, giving away free money, nothing's free. You have to work for it, or somebody's paying for that money you get free.
where did she get those ideas if her sisters?
I have no idea.
Because she only went. She just graduated high school, right? In Boyd.
Yes.
Was your dad older than her, or same age, or was she
No,
younger?
3 years older. Dad 1910 and she was 1913.
Okay. 1910. That's such a different world. She lived a good long time too. Do you know how she met John?
Mother and another one of her cronies in Boyd used to go out into the Saturday night dances, and John and his cronies were, I guess, there, and somehow or another they met. Beyond that, I don't know much.
Made those bubble machines and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Those were awesome. I remember, and I don't know why I have this, like, did he make one for the Lawrence Welk show, or did they just have one for the Lawrence Welk show?
No, they had one for the Lawrence Welk show, and he tried to duplicate it.
Okay, because I remember that was like something about the Lawrence Welk show and those big benches. And I remember going to dances, like, I don't know, Lions Club events or something,
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
and dancing. I think I wore a dress, and I think that I would sometimes dance. Like, I don't even know if you were there. Maybe it was just something that we did with them. I don't remember Jeff being there. I have such faint memories. I don't
have a clue.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, it's funny because I haven't thought of it. I haven't had that memory in so long. But I do have a memory of being at one of these dances with like linoleum floors, and the lights would be kind of down, and there would be a band playing, and yeah. Anyway, well, it's 2:00 now. I think I've tapped your brain well enough for today.
Yeah, I think so.
And we'll continue next week.
Well, we can give it a try, see what happens. Keep in mind, I'll come home from the hospital on Friday. So
Yeah. Do you want me to text, or what do you want to do? You want to just do like a check-in just to see how you're doing?
Yeah, we'll check in and see how it works.
Okay, that's great.
Good enough.
Okay.
Love you now.
Love you too. Be well.
There we go.
Yep, you can leave the meeting.